In this video, we will be looking at the XLOOKUP function in Excel and comparing its long-standing predecessor VLOOKUP to see what advantages XLOOKUP has and why you would use it instead. So we are going to create an Excel lookup first using VLOOKUP, and then we will be performing the same task with XLOOKUP. We have identified 7 improvements and advantages of XLOOKUP versus VLOOKUP. In this video, we will explain each of the first 4 improvements. We will then go through the remaining 3 improvements in our next upcoming video. At each stage, we will be adding in more to the formulas by using all of the features of XLOOKUP and building something more comprehensive by the end. At this point, a quick note that XLOOKUP has been in Excel 365 since 2019, but it didn't go into standalone Excel until Excel 2021. This means that if you are creating a file to share with anyone using an earlier version of Excel, you should not use XLOOKUP. We will be referring to an example file throughout the video. Download it via the link in the description below and start using it right away. We also have many other Excel example videos with download files included, so do click the subscribe button now to explore those further later. The example dataset we will be using includes a list of contacts that we want to be able to search via a name to view various other pieces of contact information, as well as a sizing chart where we want to find which size matches a body measurement. First, we want to turn our list of contacts into an Excel table, which will allow us to manage the data better and make it more like an Excel CRM system. Go to the contacts sheet of this spreadsheet to see the data we have saved here. Select the range of cells that contain all the contact data, including the column headings. On the ribbon at the top of the screen, click on Insert and then click the Table button under Tables. Tick the My Table Has Headers tick box and then click OK. Next, we can give the table a useful name instead of the default Table 1 to make it easier to reference later. Having just created the table, we should now be on the Table Design tab on the ribbon at the top of the screen. We can see the table name in the top left. We can call it Contacts Table, so click and enter the new name. Now we have our table of data, we can create a lookup formula to return information such as an email address for a contact's name. The traditional way of doing this would be to use a VLOOKUP formula. With Excel VLOOKUP, you set up the range you want to search in and return a value from, just like we have here. However, the first column of the range used for the VLOOKUP function has to be the one you are searching in, so you can only return information from somewhere to the right of that lookup column, and the lookup area has to start with that column. Here it is in practice. The first thing we need to do is look at our data table and count which column the email address is in, starting with the full name column as 1. In our case, the email address is therefore column 5. We need to remember this number. Or better still, we can enter the column numbers in cells above the headings like we have here. Not only does this spare us from repeatedly having to count and then remember the numbers, but we will also show you how this is handy for when we want to use the VLOOKUP formulas to return multiple pieces of information. We first enter the value we want to search for in quotes, or we point to the cell that will contain the name we want to search for. In this case, we select a cell that we will be typing a contact name into. We use $ marks around the cell reference, so if we have to copy the formula, it will continue to use this input cell to find the name we are looking up. We can use the F4 key to do this. Next, we select the range we want to search, remembering that the first column must be the name column, and then we must stretch out to the right as far as we need to be able to return data from. Now we type the number of the column within that range that we want to return the email from, 5 if you remembered, or we can point to where the column number is stored in a cell, which we are doing here. And then we specify false to make sure that we only get a return for an exact match. If we type John Dance in the input cell, you will see that it will find the matching email address for them. XLOOKUP is an improvement on VLOOKUP by adding new functionality and streamlining formulas. We have hinted at the limitations of VLOOKUP in comparison, but here is a demonstration of a list of the improvements made to lookups by XLOOKUP. They become more and more powerful as we go down through. Number 1. For starters, we can choose the search column and return column separately, so you no longer have to select a range that contains both and that has the search column at the start. This also means we don't need to use column numbers. Furthermore, we can directly select our return column, and since our contacts are in a table, we can use that table's columns names. We can select the columns by selecting the data in the column by clicking just above the column header or type in the names. With named table columns, we can't use dollar marks around the input cell to ensure it stays the input cell. Instead, we need to put an open bracket before the name of the column, full name, then add a colon, and add the full name column again, followed by a close bracket. This will ensure the full name column is what's used even when we apply this formula to other cells that we want to use XLOOKUP in. Number 2. Because we select the column we want to return, we can do something VLOOKUP cannot and can choose columns that are before the search column full name, such as the date added. Number 3. XLOOKUP can also be used to return multiple columns with one formula. For this, we will select the range of columns we want to return or return the whole table entry. The formula is only in the first cell, but it will populate all the following cells in the row with the information from the selected range without needing to copy across the formula. Very important note though, if there are already entries in the cell that the XLOOKUP is going to populate, you get a spill error message in the cell and nothing is shown in the other columns. As you can see, if we delete those values, it will then display. The first example returns the whole table entry, so has the return range as contacts table. The second example does the same thing, but here, instead of returning the whole row, it only returns a group of columns from email through to next steps. Number 4. Improvement number 4 for XLOOKUP over VLOOKUP is that you can choose what to display if no match is found, instead of the #NA that VLOOKUP always returns. In this example, we have chosen to display not found, but we could instead specify quotes to display nothing at all. You can combine VLOOKUP with other functions to make it show something different if there is no match, but with XLOOKUP you don't need to. We will go through further benefits of XLOOKUP versus VLOOKUP in our next upcoming video. Finally, if you found this tutorial helpful, please give it a like, leave a comment or share it, and to keep up with all of our helpful Excel, Access and VBA videos, subscribe to our channel. Remember, you can also view a written version of this tutorial on our website, linked in the description below. And if you have any particular questions around this topic or want more general help with Excel, get in touch via our website and we'll do our best to help. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.